This is Hannibal here from the Hannibal TV on YouTube with my weekly review of the points I find interesting in Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer newsletter. He was on vacation last week, so there was, for some reason, when he goes on vacation, even though people technically pay for a weekly newsletter, he doesn't get someone else to do the newsletter the weeks people go on vacation. So there was none last week. One of the big stories this week was Becky Lynch, who's still under contract with WWE. She did some podcasts, which overall, this podcast was very slow, very boring. I tapped out of it, but I did find the place where she talked about the one bit of gossip where she said there was a star when she came to WWE, a male star that would blacklist women after he was done sleeping with them or after he turned them down. One person this could be is Batista, who is documented. I met this girl, Rebecca, whoever she dated in 2006. I was in Deep South Wrestling in 2006. And I remember the big gossip about her was she only had a contract because Batista was banging her. Then everyone remembers Melina, whose career was never the same after that relationship. She's a great person, by the way. I know her. Kelly, Rosa Mendez, and I'm sure there's others. Some of you might remember the Great Khali, and you guys can search this up. The Great Khali did an interview, I think it was last year, where he said, and this is quite an allegation, but the Great Khali said that Batista had literally slept with every single diva in the WWE. And here is the interesting thing about that. Not one person denied it. Not one girl came out of the woodwork and said, and again, I'm not saying that that's true. He's likely exaggerating. I did know the Great Khali. He was a very honest person. He wasn't a gossip person. And I'm sure he's not exaggerating that Batista was probably with a lot more than those. Because actually, there's one. They also list she may have also slept with Dana Brooke. That's a rumor, but I'm sure there's more than that kept it on the down low. But I would say out of everyone, the top star, because that 2006 girl that he was dating never did anything after they broke up. So who is the top star that dated women and their careers went nowhere after that? I mean, the one that was the most successful was Melina, and again, I'm not lumping her into the category with the rest of these women. She's great, one of my favorite divas. CJ Perry did an interview where and this is, I don't know if I believe this, and if I do believe it, it was the wrong decision. She said that the person that stopped the Russia angle with her and Rusev, if you remember, they were most popular during that angle where they were saying he was Russian. Apparently, Donald Trump was the one that didn't want them to do the Russia angle anymore. And that's when they changed it to Bulgaria. And then they went on to do the angle where she was cucking Rusev, and he's never been over again. He's made a lot of money since then, but he's never been over again. And the funny thing is, the main reason Rusev was ever over was because of Lana. She was more over than Rusev. She was part of that thing, and I know that they're back together. I know she took a break, and there was rumors that she dated Damian Priest, but she denied those rumors. Um, but it's funny, like all these companies spend so much on Rusev, but they don't put Lana back in with Rusev because they were best together. And even AEW, they didn't work that to the full extent, but AEW's dropped the ball with everything. But I have nothing against Lana, and I do have zero respect for Rusev. I have zero respect for any man where you can say no to this, and they got released after this anyways. He allowed Bobby Lashley to make out with his wife on top of him. I have no respect for anyone that would allow that as a man, and he's never been over again since doing that. Sure, there's some that will still cheer a guy to do that, but any self-respected man will lose all respect for a guy that lets his wife make out with another man while standing on top of him. It's not like it's a movie where she's never going to see Lashley again. This is wrestling where they see each other every week and they're on the road together. Kissing and wrestling is very controversial. Which reminds me, does everyone remember the period of time where Vince McMahon was booking himself to kiss all the divas, including Sable? That was weird. Apparently, Jimmy Shank, a guy that worked for WWE for 25 years in their event operations department, needs $200,000 basically to stay alive. He's fighting cancer. His insurance is not covering this part of the treatment. He needs 200,000, even though he worked for WWE for 25 years. And they're more profitable than ever. They're not doing anything. But again, I will say this for WWE. I recently was going through some old Billy Graham interviews. One of his last Legends deals checks from WWE was $70. Like, one of the reasons Billy Graham died was because WWE didn't want to help him. If they had put some money behind his medical care, he could have lived longer. Yeah, you could say it's not their responsibility. But Billy Graham, if it wasn't for Billy Graham, he was the first wrestler to call themselves superstar. He invented superstar. He brought the brother thing into wrestling because he was from religion. He inspired Hulk Hogan. And for all the lawsuits he did, he should have done a gimmick infringement lawsuit against WWE and Hulk Hogan. He did some lawsuits that were silly to do. But the one where I truly think he would have had something was the Hogan one for the Pythons, the brother, the look. By the way, the NWO look that Hogan took in the NWO, Billy Graham had that look in Japan with the black beard, but still the white Fu Manchu. Like, he fully ripped off Billy Graham and he treated him like shit. I was there for their. At least I can say this: one of my greatest accomplishments in wrestling, I set up the very last meeting between Hulk Hogan and Billy Graham. Believe it or not, at that time, somehow I was on speaking terms with Hulk Hogan through Lanny Poffo. For a few years, I was on speaking terms with Hulk Hogan. It's not like I talked to him every day, but I had one phone conversation, texts, and emails with him. And it was mostly about Billy. I was actually trying to mend the fences, and I guess that peaked when they had their meeting. But then I guess I interviewed too many people that said bad things about Hogan, and he stopped talking to me. But I still like Hogan overall. Which, by the way, the other big news of the week is Ric Flair is alleging that Hulk Hogan died from street drugs because the doctor was not prescribing him enough pain medication. So someone went and got him the same medications off the street. And Flair, for what it's worth, says more information about this is going to come out in the next month. SmackDown in Albany, New York, an arena I was at last year. Nice arena, and I actually like Albany too. Um, Even though I did have a transvestite hit on me outside of that arena, which was a bit disturbing. While I was looking for the entrance, it's very hard to get in when it's not open, and they do have a wrestling Hall of Fame in that arena, or they did. I don't know if it still exists or not. But that arena holds 17,500, the site of Royal Rumble 92, the best Royal Rumble. They had 8,900 in there for SmackDown last week. Raw in Oklahoma this past Monday, they were in an 18,200 seat arena. They had 9,000. So while they're still getting respectable numbers, they're not in the 4,000 or 5,000s or below 2,000s. like AEW. AEW is even below 1,000 for tapings a lot of the times. You can see a definite drop because at one point all the tapings were like 12, 13, 14,000, sometimes as high as 16 to 18,000. I will say one thing for Dave Meltzer. I'm neutral, but he reported on something this week that is just there's favoritism to AEW by Meltzer. And he reported this week that Dynamite had a sellout in Nashville for a combined Dynamite Collision taping. He claimed, and I even screenshot it, this is from the Observer. He claimed that the sellout in Nashville was 2,104. Who knows how many of those are comp? Okay, screenshot that in your head, guys. I looked up the arena. The arena holds over 20,000 for concerts, 17,100 for ice hockey, 19,395 for basketball. How are you telling me this arena is sold out for 2,000 for AEW? You're just trying to put a narrative out there that AEW is doing better than it is because you're buddies with Tony Khan. That's my thinking on that. And he could respond to me on that and explain to me why he's saying 2,000 is a sellout in a 20,000 seat building. Why? Because they freaking curtained off 95% of the freaking building and you're going to call it a sellout? That's just dumb. I'm sorry. That's the stupidity of that is ridiculous. Andrade apparently is claiming there were issues with supplements that he's on that are legal in Mexico, but not necessarily legal in the US. He's had some issues with that that may have had to do with his WWE release. I don't understand the big buzz about Andrade because that one AEW Dynamite he did appear at was one of the lowest rated Dynamites of all time. And the only reason people talked about it was because apparently WWE enforced a no compete clause after, but it's not like, oh my God, he appeared and they had a great rating, like when Scott Hall came to WCW. They had the lowest rating of all time or the second lowest. I forget because there was 2 or 3 weeks there where they were hitting record lows, and I'm talking 0.6, 0.7s for a show that started at like 0.66. But I just don't get the hoopla that this guy who bombed in the ratings. Why do people care? Is this just where we're at in the news? Where the most interesting news of the week is Bret Hart saying that Shawn Michaels slept with Vince McMahon 30 years ago. That's literally the feud of the week. The second feud of the week is drunk and messed up Marty Jannetty wanting to fight me because I didn't offer him enough money for interviews. And then he goes and does free ones anyways with other people, which doesn't make sense. And yes, supposedly the wife of Marty Jannetty, her sister lives in the house with Marty and his wife, and the sister has a young kid. So in that whole situation, if you guys listen to the phone message he left me yesterday, where he's completely out of it, using the N-word, wanting to fight me, which by the way, Vince Russo, aren't you the booker of JCW? Aren't you the booker of JCW? Didn't you invent the Brawl for All? Put Marty and me in a Brawl for All in JCW. I really don't want to beat him up, but that would be interesting. That would get JCW some views. Jeremy Flynn, the senior marketing director of AEW Live Events, is no longer with the company. Hopefully that will help their attendance issues. If that's the same marketing guy I dealt with, again, AEW came to Ottawa last year, advertised about 8 people that didn't show up, including Moxley, Jericho, Soraya, FTR. They're all on the poster. Christian was on the poster. None of these people showed up. And I asked for an interview. They gave me one of the lowest people that they had, Evil Uno. Then the guy no shows the interview. and then they wonder why they're in the trash. And I was sitting, they gave me seats to the show with the guy from the Ottawa Sun, which is like the main newspaper in Ottawa. They put us in the seventh row. The Ottawa Sun guy is like, I've never been to an event where I've had tickets to a show and they put us 7 rows deep. Doesn't even make sense. And again, they were doing better back then, but they only did 2 shows in Canada this year. So it's safe to say their Canadian tour last year, where they did probably 12 or 13 shows, was a bust. Here's something interesting. We all know AEW has a lot of people under contract that they never use. Tony Chimmel, former WWE announcer, this week announced that his AEW contract has run out. Apparently, Tony Chimmel had an AEW contract that has now run out. That company wastes so much money. Piper's doing great. I miss her. Colonel Parker and Nails interviews, very possible. Very possible. I am going to be in talks with Nails soon. Who was the baddest diva ever? I think if you're talking about sluttiest, by far it's Sunny. Stacy Keibler was Jeremy's favorite diva. Someone says Rhea Ripley. Dominic did not kiss even one time. I mean, you cannot kiss. I mean, obviously there was weird stuff going on in that angle, but as I said, it offended me as a man that Rusev was allowing that, because it's just pathetic. Anyways, someone's bringing up Lanny Poffo. Rest in peace. Why do you keep bringing up Lanny Poffo? I'm great, my friend. Any news on the 3i Atlas? Honestly, December 19th, and we're talking about the some people say it's a comet, some people say if it is a comet, it's a bizarre comet. I just think there's so many people trying to push narratives on that. I just don't care about it anymore. I mean, I'm still following it somewhat, but it's like I feel everyone has their own narratives to push. And we'll see December 19th, when it comes closest to Earth, what the best picture of it's going to be. But until then, I got better things to worry about. Someone says it was only a big deal due to his WWE contract. I'm not sure who you're talking about there. Someone says, I think they're talking about Marty Jannetty there with alcohol, the rotten apple of the Rockers. He could have had a much better career if it wasn't for his issues. Yeah, nobody knew Tony Chimmel was under contract. They could have put him on TV for something. What a way. Hell, Ric Flair has been under AEW contract for years. They've used him like 4 or 5 times. He literally doesn't care. Nyla Rose makes $2 million a year, reportedly. She hasn't wrestled for over a year. Yeah, man, there's lots of people that want to talk trash about me. I really don't care. It doesn't bother me at all. And Marty, you said I have no friends. Well, speaking of 3i Atlas, Avi Loeb, the Harvard scientist, I actually consider him a friend. I've had him on here like 4 or 5 times. My best friend from Canada is also a scientist for the National Research Council. I have a very good friend from CSIS, which is the equivalent of the FBI in Canada. I have a lot of friends that I had one of my best friends from Ottawa. Was a guy that ran Transport Canada. So it's like, I don't really worry about you, Marty. What I'm more worried about is a 65-year-old drug addict, alcoholic in the same house as a small child acting the way he does. But whatever. Let's stop talking about him and let's, if he doesn't want to help himself, obviously, I have no ability to help him. His number is now blocked on my phone. I got better things to do with my life than worry about him. So wish everyone a great Saturday. I'm going to go train, get these biceps even bigger so I can get back in the ring in 2026.